Maury always looks them up for me. I'm a big believer in consent. It really matters. But we can also have relational consent where we see what's happening in the moment. We have consensual non-consent. We have a basic agreement of what two people want. I think we're then overthinking a lot of the things we do. If you've had some offers, do you know what, if I were you, knowing you like I do, and I do know you slightly, so that's an unfair principle for me to be in, just fucking take them up and have a go. Just if you say to somebody, okay, you are my practice. If you are very honest and say, I'm experimenting and I don't quite know what I'm doing. The other thing to think about is if you know what it's like for you, if you are submissive, you know what you would like done to you. The thing is that doesn't make you an expert in somebody else. Oh, we're very bad at that. Yeah, well, I like this. Yeah, but I fucking don't. Take your finger out of there. Like we don't all like that. We like different things. Yeah, my nose doesn't do it for me. But so we have to think about what is it that the other person wants. Ask them about their experience and what it means and see what they think as well. And then just say, we're just trying this. Let's have some fun. I mean, I also I think it's a really good idea. I go for numbers while you're playing, especially if you're with someone really new. Because somebody will say, that's an 8, isn't it? You're really fucking suffering here, aren't you? You go, I'm a fucking 2, mate. Or this is a 1, and I'm like, I've just hit a 10. So like, we're all different for different reasons. I think you have to find out what the other person wants. But honestly, I would say to you, go for it. Because we procrastinate so much and we think about it and we put all this shit in our way. If you have an opportunity, I'm only saying this because I know you're sensible, you think about these things, I know what you've been through. So that makes a difference too. I know you're going to care for the other person and not want it to be a terrible experience. But then I also think, and I don't know you fully personally, I only know you from the workshops, is that you'll then overthink, oh my God, I want it to be really good for them and I don't want it to be bad for them and fuck, I'm going to fail. Yeah. Well, you are. I guarantee every single person in this room, as a submissive, a top, a switch, as a kinky person, as a poly partner, you are going to fail. It's a guarantee. It's something. At some point, you will not communicate well. At some point, something will go wrong. Mm-hmm. You will have a clusterfuck scene. Mm-hmm. You will say something to a partner that, I've mentioned this before, an old partner and myself kidnapped this woman who was Amazonian. Amazonian woman. And we tied her to a bed. They don't go in bingo because they teach people it's fun. So we tied her to this bed and I slapped her face hard. Like I am somebody, I've grabbed, like I've been in a 4, quite often have poly relationships, and I've watched the 2 guys really giving a best friend a good time. And I'm like, she's not having a good time. And I've gone in and now she's having a good time. And that's what makes me switch sometimes when I see somebody isn't having a great time and I know that I can add to their experience. That's the time I tend to switch. Which, I slapped her around the face. I've never been so scared in my life. She broke half an oak bed trying to come at me. She was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I was like, what the fuck? It wasn't on the list. I've been really careful. I've copied everything I've done right. What is going on? And I ended up phoning her partner who'd arranged it all. And he went, oh shit, I forgot that one. Sorry, she hates it. So I now will never negotiate through a third party. That taught me that became an absolute limit for me, unless they tell me themselves I'm not interested, and vice versa. So things will go wrong. So what you've got to do is have a plan for when it goes wrong about how you will handle it and what sort of human being you'll be.
Pre-mortem.
Bingo! I didn't say it. So if you look up pre-morteming on like a TED talk, it's about an astronaut or it's a plan. So when we post-mortem something, we look at what went wrong. If you have a pre-mortem for something, what you're really looking at is everything that could go wrong, potentially, and having ideas ballooning off like a spider map of, well, that could happen, that could happen, that could happen, and that could happen. And when it does, this is what I'll do. And if you have that in your brain, the things you will react quicker and better to things that are going wrong each and every time. And get a mentor if you can. Go and see somebody, get some help as soon as you can. It's really hard to get a mentor, and if a mentor wants to put their dick inside you, they're not a mentor. They're out for a fuck. I'm sorry, it is mainly penis owners. It is from that perspective. I wish it wasn't, however it often is. So get help, talk to people, talk to friends. But honestly, if I were you, I'd grab it by the balls, literally. Go for it. Because you're going to procrastinate. Oh,
Deb,
it's not perfect.
Rather than start with hard limits with someone new, start with
a wait list, things that
absolutely love. Absolutely love. Can I say, when you meet someone, if you ask them their limits, do not be the sort of cunt with their immediate response that says, I can't wait to push those.
Oh, fuck off.
I don't understand that as a principle. Let's start with stuff we both enjoy so we get to know each other and it goes well. Yeah. And let's do that first instead of like build up trust. It's you cannot undo a negative. If something's gone really badly in a scene, okay, if you want to come in, you're welcome to come and grab a seat. If you have a negative in a scene and something's gone horribly wrong, it's really difficult to rebuild the trust. It's really difficult to make it good. I would always say, I say this to everybody, and that is under promise and over deliver, under push and over please. Even as a dominant or a top, give someone a really good time. They'll come back and they'll trust you. It doesn't mean the next time you're like a twat. I mean ongoing. Be kind, be nice, and actually you'll have a much better time, and you really will. So I would always say, I think Namori is absolutely right. Go for something that you know that they love and have a really good time. And keep asking, is this good for you? Do you like this? And if they say, yes, it's wonderful, say, great, I'm going to stop then. Because then you can play, can't you? Oh, beg. If they like beg, you can play with that beautifully. You can still do it as a top. You can whisper in someone's ear and say, well, please be careful about degradation and humiliation. I think it's edge play. I wrote a thing the other day, I had my hips injected and I have physical damage from BDSM. Isn't that crazy? I have physical damage as a 56-year-old woman for stuff that I've done. I don't have emotional damage. I'm very lucky. I work very hard on that. I'm clearly fat and I need to lose weight. That doesn't help either. However, I've been punched. I like punching, and especially my hips, my bursa have split really badly from that. Plus, I used to be a dancer. Doesn't help either. Lots and lots of other things. But, so I think we have to be careful about what we do for the long term as well. But I also mean psychologically. That's really important too. So with humiliation, degradation, just negotiate the aftercare. What do they want? What will it look like? What do you need afterwards? Can I have a full review, please? And scores out 10 for everything I did. But if you need that, that's okay to negotiate as well. Tops can negotiate too. I never understand this one. We've just got to look after the sub. There are 2 or 3 or 4 people in that room, or 12, whatever you want it to be. Everybody has needs, and everybody needs respect and care and something afterwards. It's not all about the submissive needs all of this, so we're just going to look after them. I don't need looking after a scene. At the end of the scene, what I want is, you've been a good girl, I love you, or whatever, and I'm as content as anything. However, you might say, when I did that to you, were you genuinely okay? So I'm like, no, I'm really okay with that. Because people really doubt it, because I like that severe humiliation and nasty stuff, and it gets very personal. So people go, do you still like me? You're still talking to me. That's really good. So it varies. So I would go for it. So, tell your friend that, he can go for it.
Because I think Zoe's only about the camera, I would want to be like in the sense, but then I would be worried about that taking, forcing it. So they, I don't know, they did something too rough. That they were okay with that, still would be like, was that okay? Do you remember? I don't want
to. So get them to score. Get them to score all the way through. Make it a rule. Make it a rule that you tell me where you are. If I hit you, you say 3 or 4. Or 6 or 7, and you'll know, because if you start edging up to an 8 or a 9 or a 10, you're going too far, or too fast.
And actually, game of it.
Yeah.
So if they say 5 and then 7, in for the 6. It's good practice,
and it's good fun. And it's so make it. So ask for scoring, and make them, and confuse them. So the brain's a very clever thing, especially when it comes to pain. So if you confuse, if you ask somebody to sing a song, but at the same time count the amount of strokes that you're hitting, they'll probably fail. And then you can set up a game and you can do all sorts of stuff. Just confuse the brain a little bit. It's wonderful. For me, when I'm receiving pain, one of my keys to sort it out is to put my hands over my ears. Because if I do this, I handle pain better. So I like to be able to do this.
If you do what?
Sorry, Chris, that's right. If I cover my ears. So if I can't hear and I feel the thud or the whatever it is that I'm receiving, I'm much better off. But then I also miss the good girl or those other things that I really like. So I'm like, which one do I do? So just make it fun. Have a good time and relax with it.
Chris has a question.
Yes, Chris.
Are you staying with the same subject, or are we moving on?
I don't know yet. We'll see in a minute. Has anyone got anything to add to that?
Oh, sorry,
It's related.
that's the next question, but not.
Okay. Anyone got anything they want to add to that?
Yeah, it's really from a submissive point of view. Mistress is very keen on doing regular reviews, seeing where we are, making sure.
Hang on a second, I'll come back to you. Is that a new question?
No, it's related. To
Oh, okay. Go on.
you were
Sorry,
saying,
my
but
bad.
From the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
But I find it very difficult to actually contribute and give Mistress the feedback that I think she's looking for, and I feel I'm failing her in that regard. So, I mean,
Does failing her motivate you to do something or make you feel less motivated? I don't quite. I think you might have to go round because I don't think you can get over that.
I have
Skills.
Sorry, I'm listening.
no idea.
Okay,
I
so
just struggle to
do you handle orders well?
yes.
Okay.
Most
Personally, are you mistress? Personally, so I'm not going to talk to you for a second. I would play with that. I would play that if this is okay, so this is all about consent. I would play with the principle of you will give me feedback, you will be doing these things, if not, you will disappoint me. This is how I expect feedback to look, this is how I want it to be, and if not, this is happening and that's happening. So I would play a manipulative game. He's smiling actually, so I don't know if that means it'll work or not. So, but if it doesn't and it's too manipulative, I would then go with, let's not do feedback, let's do feedback as a couple, let's have a conversation, and let's have an equal talk about how things are and what's happening for you. Some of us do struggle. It might be that you struggle verbally. It might be that you could write something. It might be that you could do a journal. It might be that you could do a book. It might be that you could do a notebook where it's never brought up in a talking perspective, but the person writes a note on the other side as a form of response. It could be many ways of having that conversation. If you feel like, the problem is if we feel like we're going to fail someone, I always say to people, especially if you've got a sub who's really worried about failing a dominant, you will, that's life. And the first thing is you'll do it even more if you don't talk to them. Not talking to somebody ruins relationships. I'm sorry, but it does. I'm working with a couple at the moment, and you know, he told us, I'm fucking hating these sessions. And I said, okay, good. It's really tough, isn't it? Hard time, the negativity, because he's like, I just want positivity. That's not in the real world. That's not how we live. When things are going wrong, we need to have better conversations.
I'm
So
totally the opposite. I can very easily articulate the red flag areas that don't go. Yeah, what would you like? What should we be doing? You know, I just can't.
it's not you can't do it. You haven't been taught how. That's all about your self-esteem. All about asking for what is for you, and that is a key matter. That is something where I would have. I want because I've never had to, and I don't know how to.
The other thing is, how does she want that framed? Yeah. The mistress will want feedback in a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's a training issue. Quite often the top needs to be trained in what they require as well.
I think very specific small things that you ask for is a good start. However, if you've got somebody who's so frightened for asking what they want, sorry, huge hot flushes, I think you could turn around and say to him, right, I want to go talk to someone, I want to get a coach or a mentor or somebody who could help, but I don't think he'll do that because he doesn't want to talk. And I think that's part of the problem. So there you go.
There's no fear.
It's not about fear. It's about unperceived fear. It's about something if you won't ask for what you want. What will happen if you tell her what you like?
He worries about boxing.
About what?
It
Boxing from the box.
It kind of puts me in the wrong place. Sorry.
Okay. It doesn't put you in the wrong place though if she says, this is what I want from you and this is your position, do it. Does it? There you go. That's your answer. It's a bit brutal, but that's your answer.
Well, the other opinion is like very possibly like a report card. It gives me a sleep, put them up with a report card to give them. You have to fill in. Something like that. So you'll get them. Just put some boxes or put some numbers on it. Simplify it. It's all my work.
He can't, he's got a marker.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, so you could do things, but what I'm hearing is a massive amount of, whether you call it fear or not, a concern or a worry. If I ask for what I want and I say what I want, I'm topping from the bottom, therefore it won't work. So, top. top him and say, this has to happen, you will disappoint me if it doesn't, I will be let down if you don't. My good slave, my good submissive would do this for me. This is now part of our contract, sort your fucking ass out and get it done. And I bet that will work for him. So you've got to be more prescriptive and dominant. And that's me just guessing because I don't know him that well, but I've got a feeling that would work better rather than getting him to talk because he's already gone, I don't want to. So I'd argue that that's probably the case.
Open sunlight.
Thanks. It's very noisy. Right.
Sorry, can I draw a
Thank you, I really appreciate it. Yes.
I think one thing, going back to sort of both of them, and I'll pick up a little bit, there's a vulnerability in you stepping out of where you are and going somewhere else. There's a vulnerability in you putting, so that they're not fears, but you're feeling a little bit vulnerable. But again, if you want to play the game, step in the arena, you will fail, as you just said, but being vulnerable, you will have success as well.
You will.
And you will.
And some people don't see it as vulnerability. Some people aren't very good with the word fear and all sorts of different things. And it's not, I think as well, we can get very designed in a place that says, this is my place, this is the way I do things, this is my role. However, each person's role is different. If I said to you, what's a slave or what's a submissive, we would have so many different answers in this room. What's a bottom? I mean, it's an art. I go, what's a bottom is very different as well, isn't it? We've all got different answers, and words are really important in relationships. What is it you're looking for? So actually, I think the more I picked up on something, I would lead differently. I would go in and say, this is what I want, this is what I'm doing, this is what you are doing. It is not topping from the bottom. You are facilitating information so I can give us a better time. And if you don't do that for me, then we're not going to have a good time, and that ruins our relationship. I'm not interested in you playing games on this. Do it. And he's really laughing at that, so that would be 100%. So I would go for that. With a slap. And but the thing is, if he likes punishments, he might not, but I don't think he plays those sorts of games. So yeah, you say no. So I would go for it and ask from that perspective. Anyone got a different question? Let's move on a little bit.
Yeah.
Hang on, Chris, I'll come back to you.
How common is it for people to feel paranoid and vulnerable that being judged, kink shamed, and sort of reverse kink shamed, where people are saying, "Oh, you're not into that," as well as you're into that.
Ask the room. Anyone here worried about that? Anyone here about being kink shamed, reverse kink shamed? How common is it?
I've been laughed at.
So around a third of the room, maybe even half. It is pretty common. I think when you're someone like here, we get a bit more bravado because we feel brave. We're amongst people who think and feel like us. I mean, it depends what you mean by being kink shamed. I've just, fucking hell, they'll have a go at me. I've been accused. Leave.
I'm multitasking.
I've just been accused twice of kink shaming on FetLife, and I'm like, fuck off, you cunt. I mean, I feel very violently about it. Very violently. And I understand that's not attractive to some people because they say, Deb, you're not being reflective or something. One was a woman doing naked yoga with a fucking great big dildo, stark naked, right by a motorway where all the cars could see her as they're driving past. I just said, stop it. Don't do that. It's exposure, you're on a road, there's families, people can see, it's a huge issue. Oh, you're just kink shaming. No, I think you find that's illegal, and I've got an opinion on it. And then another one was a woman on a beach doing a video. And people in the video behind, it's a beach, it's a naked beach, new beach, and she's giving him a blowjob, and she's saying, but I'm being very subtle. This isn't subtle. I don't know. Really subtle. And it is illegal. I do know my laws in different countries as well. It's absolutely illegal. Someone said, oh, you're just kink shaming. So I thought, fuck this. And I've written this massive piece on kink shaming, what it means, because we feel shame. And shame is that feeling of being inherently flawed, not being okay. It's not that we're doing a bad thing, it's that we feel bad. We are bad as a human being. Something isn't right. I think there's a lot of vanilla shaming nowadays. If you look at Freak Talk or Dark TikTok, whatever they want to call it, it's on the darker side. You've got 16 to 18-year-olds covered in bruises in all the wrong places anatomically. Like, it's quite frightening. And they're going, oh my God, if you don't like being choked out, you ain't loving it right. And so there's a lot of vanilla shaming at the moment. I watched a video on FetLife the other day where a guy had an extended shoelace. He wrapped it around his partner's neck and he just pulled. And then, see, I nearly wrote, fucking hell again. I didn't, I just blocked because I've got to stop. That is so dangerous because the way the cotton catches on each other, you can't necessarily loop your finger in to get it done. And I would be accused of kink shaming again. However, that is a very dangerous way to choke somebody out. You've just dropped something. Oh, and some paper, Lauren. But so yes, I think kink shaming happens. If you're talking about being caught from the vanilla world is a little more understanding than it used to be, but it's not as understanding as you think. Only 6% of the UK population are LGBTQ, only 4% are poly. That's a very low figure. In my world, it's more like 80 to 90. And so sometimes when I go out there and I talk about something and someone goes, I go, oh shit, this is the normal world. So I think we do have to be careful with the assumptions that we make. I think somebody should be okay with what I'm saying. That's a me problem, not a them problem. Can you still lose your job and stuff? Somebody that David's gone, but somebody that David and I used to know died recently, and it's really sad that he died. And he was one of the first people in the UK who lost his job because of this sort of stuff. He was in the probation service, and he lost his job because of what happened. So can we still lose our jobs? Does it still impact us? Yes, we can. I know people in this room who put photographs up in public places and actually been called in by unions and all sorts of stuff. So yes, you still have to be careful. It depends on your job and it depends what you're doing. However, since 50 Shades of Grey, we're a lot more popular. We're a lot more trendy. Most people turn left in Ann Summers. I don't know what that means, but if the kink section was left, like 80 to 90% of people will try kink, will have a go and want to do something. So I think if you're worried about kink shaming, introduce it as a little bit of slap and tickle. You don't have to go into, I tie my submissive up and call her a worthless fucking cunt and then I fist fuck her and whatever. Maybe start slow. So, and just say, I like enjoying these things and I like doing flows there. Here's the manager here and I just really, can I come and steal something from your kitchen later?
Sorry?
I want to steal something from the kitchen.
Absolutely, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, yes.
That's why we love you, Flo.
That's how popular we are.
I've told him what I want to have yet. Fucking great big copper bowl. Right.
It's always a copper bowl, anyways.
My house is very grey. My house is literally 50 Shades of Grey, if ever you see it. With copper and all sorts of different things anyway. But so I think vanilla and kink shaming both happen. Again, I will go back to, what are you doing to prepare for that? And is it your own shame that's getting in the way? What's happening?
It's not my own shame, it's just
A fear of?
No, it's not my shame. It's someone I know who it's totally worried that it's more the reverse, that they're not doing enough, or I'm not into this, so they can sit and go, oh, you're not into that, that's strange. Or,
What's enough?
Pardon?
What's enough? Define enough.
Well, this is it. It's
Yeah.
puzzle.
Yes, and like that,
Define enough.
and that's and when we have conversations with each other, one of the things we tend to start is, what are you into? What are your limits? Jesus, ask them if they like a coffee first. Start with relating to somebody. Start with, would we get on? Would we be able to have a conversation? There can be physical attraction. That's cool, but can that last? There can be many things. But kink is a spectrum from tickling and touching and stroking, which could be agony for somebody and pleasure for somebody, to I'm going to put 33 rusty nails through the end of your cock.
Rusty?
Well, I'm just being a bit extreme. So, like, it can be anything, can't it? Kink can be anything. Fetishes can be anything. I met somebody the other day who really, really, all the time, wants his submissive to end up vomiting and preferably into his mouth. Yeah, all right. Yeah, ooh, but that's
bad timing.
So we've got a quick share from someone on the thread saying they were kink shamed as a daddian and as an ABDL, often get accused of paedophilia, and they actually lost their job 20 years ago as a result of it.
Right, so I would argue, being in the scene for as long as I have, daddy was not. You didn't do ABDL, like adult baby, or you didn't do diapers. You didn't do those fetishes went under the radar 20 to 30 years ago. I would say in the last 10 to 15 years, we have much more gone into age play. And age play, because I'm not a baby or a little girl, but do I love a daddy? Fucking hell yeah. Love the word daddy. Even if you're fucking me, it doesn't mean I think you're my dad. It's not related, is it? However, I would say things are changing. It also depends on your culture. In America, especially in black culture, African culture, daddy is a common thing said almost every day. Hey daddy, like, and it's really, really common and it's used massively. Whereas actually, when you go into white heteronormative, it's hardly used at all. So it really depends on the culture as well that we're in. So it's understanding the impact of what we're doing. I think we have to be careful. A lot of people who are into age play are accused of paedophilia. Do you like them then? Do you like them young? No, this is a consensual agreement and relationship with another adult where we do things maybe like you like to be blindfolded. I wouldn't then go and want to blind you. I wouldn't want to, like it's a ridiculous statement, isn't it? They're all similar. But we do have to learn to defend ourselves. I would also say know the law. Please, like know your anatomy, know about consent, know your first aid, and then know the law. Most of what anyone here ever had a bruise or a mark ever in their lives?
Yes.
Anyone here had a love bite from somebody? A hickey, that lasts more than 2 days, or given one? Right. So you've broken the law technically. Anything more than trifling or transient mark on another person's body is breaking the law. If you really want to break it down to what was said in the Spanner case, which still influences us today. So anything more than a trifling or transient mark, do you know how that person will bruise? Do you know how they're marked? Fucking love bite is technically illegal after that. Because that's more than trifling or transient. When your 14-year-old comes home, they've got a whole fucking neck down side, like, is he left insecure? Does he? Is she being insecure about you seeing somebody else? Are they insecure? Well, okay. But that's technically illegal. So a lot of what we do is illegal. So know your law, but also know your rights. Know your rights to practice your own sex life. Know your rights to do things privately. Know what somebody can ask you about and what they can't. And I think we get more confident when we know our rights. I feel very confident when somebody starts having a go at me and I go, oh, let me correct you. That's an opinion. You're entitled to that. It is not fact. That's okay. You may feel that way. That's a feeling. It is not a fact. And I think that can help us as well sometimes. I would also argue that if you're on the softer end of the spectrum, there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty. Anyone here on the softer end of the spectrum?
Depends on the spectrum.
I count the soft. When I'm asleep.
So I would argue that there are plenty of people on the softer end who just want to be kind and gentle and create pleasure and still be dominant or still be submissive. There are plenty of people who are into many things. However, it's the pool that's the problem. As a 56-year-old woman, my statistics for looking as a single woman looking for somebody, probably male, 23% of 50 to 65-year-olds are single. If I go younger, that might change. And I tend to attract younger men for whatever reason. But that's probably can you teach me?
Because you don't look your age at all.
Oh, thanks. Botox. Right, so I can move my face. Surprise. So I've 23% of the population in the whole of the UK. If I then want somebody who earns what I earn, roughly, that's going to go down a lot. I earn well. I do earn well. Do I want someone of similar intellect? I've got an MBA, I've got an MSc, I've got 8 postgraduates. Whoa. Okay, that's going to change again.
There she goes throwing all the lectures.
I know. I'm just
still MBA, CW.
But what I'm trying to say is, it becomes a single percentage, and then you throw in kink, and it all goes out the window. We've got to start looking for connections and then working from that. It's no good just saying yes, but you're not into that, and don't throw away people just because of kink. I don't want this. Oh, fuck off then. So, but hang on, that might be able to be modified. We might be able to do something there that pleases us both. What if I'm polyamorous and you can get that from somewhere? What if I'm a cup queen and you can go where you like to do that? Just come back to me. What if? We tend to just have this kink list, followed by an intelligence list, followed by an earnings list, followed by a whatever list that just throws people out. Let's just not do that. Don't dismiss people for lots of reasons, because trying to find your kink, small.
In the case of the original question, it wasn't so much in relationships. It's always fine. It's some types of being paranoid that within the community they're being judged for not doing enough, or our other doms or subs more into this or that, and there's that paranoia that they're not fitting into this particular mold of what a And as much as I try to reassure them that that's not the case, then
There is no mold. I can't say it enough as a woman who's been around for a very long time. There is no mold. I think people who try to manipulate or exploit some people will tell you there's a mold. But all subs do this. If you loved me, you would. We can make it vanilla as well. If you loved me, you would do this. That's called manipulation. And in fact, it's domestic violence nowadays. I mean, I think we have manipulation, and I think there are levels that we have in relationships in different ways. However, to say that all subs should do this, I have lots of arguments with old school. I'm pretty old school, been around a long time, went through that training system as it was many, many years ago, and it's changed dramatically to what it is now. But I would also argue rights have changed. I would argue that sexuality has changed. I would argue that an awareness has changed, so people are more aware. I think we have to be very careful about saying, if you were a good sub, you would do this. All subs do this. I think we have to get hold of people who are new to the scene and say that is not true.
There's also the people assuming that everyone else is into something that's more extreme than they are. That everyone else is an edge player and they're not. Whereas if you ask around the room, you probably find that more people playing at your level than are playing at the extreme edge.
And if it also, I think when you look on places like FetLife, it can be a real danger. You've got people like Damon Danes, who's got hundreds of followers, women clicking off his profile all the time. I love the pictures, but most of his pictures are dangerous. Most of his pictures are very bad bruises in very bad places, but they're fucking hot as anything. They're really sexy, but they're not good play, they're not good practice. And like somebody who's quite famous on FetLife put a thing up yesterday, and it's not sitting with me. It's really interesting. He's very poly. He's got about 8 partners. I mean, how the fuck do you have 8 partners? Honestly, every day and every week, it's time, isn't it? Time is very precious. And I think if you don't live with someone, whether you can, as long as the other partner is happy with only being seen every so often, that absolutely works for some people some of the time. However, he was very much, if you're going through a really hard time and you're struggling and feeling like you're not getting enough time for me, you are going through a cycle and you need to sort this out. And I felt like saying, or you need to realise you're not giving enough time to the people that are around you and you're not negotiating that very well either. So I think there's always someone saying something where they're right because they've got 100,000 followers. There's this young woman who's massively into anal. She's very, very popular, like 380,000 followers or something. And she wrote a piece on anal a couple of years ago. It's so absolutely biologically, and it's wrong. She's categorically wrong. It's great that she says, at my age, this is like this so far. And I wrote a counter piece because we need the facts, not fiction. Not well in my experience, because your experience doesn't mean fucking anything. Give us the facts, give us the medical, the biological, and you can put in some experience around it. So I think we've got to get hold of people who are coming into the scene who are new, regardless of their age, and tell them there isn't a true way. Tell them there isn't a one way. They're not doing anything wrong. And if anything, I'm going to tell them to go really slow and meet some nice people. Because we tend to meet people and follow people and go, oh, that's what I want to be like. It's just a fucking website with pictures on. And it's the same danger in the vanilla world of Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or any of those things. I mean, how many people have got a filtered photo somewhere? Everyone has a small filtered photo somewhere, don't they? But is that what you look like when you turn up? Is that who you are? And we filter our lives very rarely. The people I know on social media, they'll turn around and say, oh, it's because my life is glorious. It's like, no, you're not. You wanted to kill him yesterday. I don't understand it. But we never put that out there. So again, it's that pressure that comes in. So I would very much ask people to read around and follow the right people to get the right messages. But who's right? That's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, what's right? It's difficult. There are some good writers and people out there.
I mean, one of the most useful advice I've had in the scene is people that actually say, just be whoever you are, and it's okay to be contradictory, to have contradictions. Because I find that people that say, well, as a submissive or a dominant, you should be like this. All they're doing is they're projecting their own point of view onto you. They're not actually.
So they try to get what they want.
Exactly.
If you were a good girl or a good boy or a good human or a good cat or a good whatever, you would do this. Because that's what all do, and that's very difficult. That makes it difficult. Chris, you go ask your question.
No, I've answered my own question, Deb.
Great.
Thanks.
And has got a different
I have a
question.
question. Oh, wait.
I'll come back to you.
To-do list.
I'll come back.
So I just what I'm just to revisit some of the stuff we've spoken about the last 15 minutes. What advice would you have for people with partners who are kinky, but it's pretty obvious at this. So I've been with my partner for about 18 months. It's pretty obvious at this point that she is up for the stuff I'm into, if you know what I mean. But for her, it's just a thing you do as part of sex. Whereas for me, it's kind of like you happily subsist on just that, if you know what I mean. But I guess in terms of, I guess what I'm trying to ask here is how do you have conversations with them in terms of can we try doing more of this sort of stuff, and just wondering what, I guess, because what I was thinking with this is it's not that she has an issue with it, and also I've never pushed her boundaries, but I don't think in terms of the extent I want to go with it, she just wouldn't really be up for going that far because she wouldn't enjoy it. Because when we have sort of approached that sort of thing, she's just said, we did this for experiment, but I'm not getting a kick out of it that you get. You know what I mean?
The long-term issue will be, and I'm going to be fucking honest here, is if she's not that into it and it's not her lifestyle, at some point you will have to decide, am I okay with that or do I leave?
Yeah.
Yes.
That will be your end decision, and that's pretty brutal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's awful, but at the end of the day, that's what it'll be. You can try and pull someone into something, and you can say, hey, come on. We either have to put up, we can't have a go at someone. If you decide to stay because you love someone and they can't give you what they want, it isn't their fault, it is your decision. That's a really important thing to own. You can say, I want this, let's sit down. You could come and see someone like me, not me, I don't have any spaces. You can have a facilitated conversation, which can really help with a third party, who can say, hey, look, how can we get more? How can we do this? I'm dealing with a couple at the moment, actually, just like that, who she's not really sure if she's into it. He is absolutely into it, but he's not going to leave. And honestly, he will make her pay for that for the next 20 years if they stay together. I can absolutely see it. And that's a worry for me, because that's not okay. If somebody isn't willing to do it, the other option becomes, do we open up our relationship? Do we do other things with different people? But then people who are insecure will put a lot of boundaries on what the other person does and how it works. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, and you're like, bloody hell. And that's quite complex. If this is in you, you really want this, you might end up at the end of the line saying, fuck. And she might, it's not that she's not open-minded, but if it doesn't work for her, it doesn't work for her. What are you willing to live with or not? Yeah, I do. And you don't have to.
I'm supposed to answer the question without answering. I guess I'm very new to getting into the scene at all, and I guess part of dipping my toes is just trying to work out what there is or how we can make it work, if at all, kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe trying to work out there is some sort of meet halfway kind of thing. I guess
there probably is.
Yeah, and I guess I was wondering, do you have any advice for those sorts of conversations? And I guess a sort of tangential kind of thing. I mean, I guess it's like some of the groups I'm part of, people do. I understand that there are some people that go to play parties and sort of do poly play stuff, but they sort of have strict rules of anything outside of the sort of BDSM things. They don't do that with their partner, kind of thing. In the sense of as long as you don't have sex with people, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, some people have that limit.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any advice for? Shelf that particular conversation, but meeting halfway conversations is really what I prefer to be doing in the first place.
You need to sit down with her and have a really strong conversation about what you're into and what you think it looks like, what she thinks she's into and what it looks like, what both of your sets of boundaries would be. You can watch videos together, you can read things together, you can work out what works, but it's all about conversation. And you can show some stuff and you can have a bit of a play, like I was saying earlier. See, do you like this? How is this? What are we going to do? If she's not into it, it won't happen. Can you meet halfway? My question I'd throw back at you is, can you meet her halfway? Are you willing to give up half of what you want?
Halfway doesn't sound from my view.
And this is part of the point.
No, be mindful that he's halfway, maybe have the, I don't know the term, I don't want to assume, but he's halfway, maybe his partner's full way and full in, and the partner may be absolutely happy with that.
And sometimes love and other things, love doesn't make a relationship. Can we please get rid of that fallacy?
He's halfway might be already too much for her.
Yes, and that's the thing. So it's a sliding scale, but that's why I'm throwing it back at you a little bit. You have to work out, even before you have this conversation, what is enough for me? What isn't enough for me? And what will it look like? Because if you then go in and say, I want this, I see it with unicorns all the time. So a unicorn is a third woman for a heterosexual No, you get these heterosexual partners. It's a dragon if it's a male gender orientated identifying, unicorn female identifying and or female whatever. So if you watch couples make all these rules, and I can stand back sometimes and I just go, okay, and they've got all these rules, and then they present them to another human being who says, no. We've got to be inclusive. So, and the same principle is if you've got one person and one person, decide what's okay for you. Because if she's not wanting to go here or here, then it's not going to happen. But then what's the cost of that? We often will put up with cost if we're very in love with someone for a while. We'll often put up with a cost for a while if the relationship is quite new and it's still in a honeymoon phase. However, long term, people then regret those decisions more often than not always, and it becomes damaging. And honestly, you're better. I'm not telling you to walk away from this person at all. For you, you are better off walking away if there is no way you're going to get all your needs met. If you are happy not getting your needs met, completely different story.
A similar-ish experience with that. So I've been with my partner for 2 years, and so he's kinky, but to a much lesser degree than I am. When we play and we experience that, I can satisfy his kink needs completely. But because my experience and my desires are a bit sort of further into it than his are, we have an open relationship which then gives me the ability to explore the more kinky side that he is not interested in, that he is unwilling to sort of push for. So that was how that worked for us, and it works quite well.
And a lot of people are so frightened to open up their relationships, because of jealousy, possessiveness, and all those other things. And actually, if you can just translate jealousy as a fear of loss, that's all it is. I'm really frightened that you're going to meet someone else and they're going to be better than me. That there's no such thing. They're different. That's what, when someone is jealous or controlling, it's a fear. They're really scared of that sort of thing.
Fear of loss.
Yeah, such a fear of loss. That's what jealousy is. It is nothing else. Yes, Lord.
Just going back to it, you're asking how to face that conversation. Even before facing that conversation, I could suggest sit with yourself and work out what do you want. Yeah. What is that I want? What is that I dream with? It may not be what I want. It may not be what I'm going to do, but it's that sort of idea that's nagging me in my brain. Maybe important for me. Just have clear what you want, what you can live with, what you can live without. Because it may be that you come to a place that you have all this beautiful movie, because we all have a beautiful movie in our brains. You meet someone, they may be amazing, or they may end up being a piece of shit. You never know. But what do you want? What do you have? What do you want to get? What are you happy having, even if you don't get the rest?
And your movie changes.
Help yourself decide on that.
As we grow older.
If you are as new to the scene or to being active as you say, it's still a bit like a toy shop. There's all sorts of exciting stuff.
I think it's.
Will that fade over time? Are
Yes.
you kinky to the core? Because if you're kinky to the core, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, well, I think there's no. I say I'm new to being formally involved in the scene, I'll put it that way, in the sense of the being aware that I've been kinky is not something I've had any issues with, and that's been something that's been a big part of my life for the last 10 years. But prior to this partner, I guess I've been fortunate enough to have partners who were into it. Maybe not as the same, but actually I've had a couple who were even more into it than I was actually. But you know what I mean, like enough that this didn't come up as an issue, basically. Whereas I guess it's now with this relationship. So I love her to bits, but there is the niggle, if you know what I mean. Sort of
And that's an interesting phrase, isn't it? I love her to bits, but you say that.
Been there, done that.
You were going to say.
Don't like it. Don't wait 20 years before you sort it out.
Yeah. You're going to say.
I just have to join in terms of particularly if partners relatively new or inexperienced, it's a lot to do with pressure.
Yeah.
And if they feel like if they don't enjoy it enough, they'll be reluctant to commit to doing it at all, or set much harder limits than they otherwise have done. Whereas if you can remove that pressure, it's like, look, I just want to try this, you might find that actually the less pressure there is, the more they enjoy it, the more the boundaries move to meet yours. And they find they are more interested in enjoying things more, purely because that pressure's taken away.
Yeah. Hence I said chat, read stuff, make it casual, have a good fun with it, rather than, well, I want this and you've got to do this and this is how it works. But you still need to know what you want. So I really agree with that as well.
There's a way that I found that it works effectively for me in terms of approaching those conversations. Rather than having a direct conversation, you make yourself the third party. So, as you know, I'm asking for a friend. You could literally do that. So you talk to your partner as though you were both talking about something else you know. So, my friend, I'm interested in this, but my partner's not. But talk to them as though they're the third party. Talk to them as though they're the impartial person in the middle. It takes some of the pressure off. It's less you don't want this or I want to do this with you. It's I'll have a conversation and my friend's not interested. I'm not really sure what I should do about it. And it gives them the opportunity to put themselves outside or yourself outside the situation, and it just eases some of that pressure again that they can start to open up a little bit more, talking as a third party. Knowing in the back of the mind we are talking about our relationship, but it feels like talking about a friend, it feels like talking about somebody else. But just again, it takes a bit more pressure off. Ultimately, the answer is going to be the same, but
I mean, that is a technique, and it's a trauma technique, and it can be really effective. The only time it will backfire is if the ulterior message underneath is if it's not clear that I'm kind of talking about me as well, because actually if you then go into the conversation too far down, eventually someone will say, oh fuck, you meant you. And that's the only thing I would say. Just be so yes, and be a little bit careful. You had a question just before we finish.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this one, Deb.
There we go.
Want to take bets, anybody? 20 quid.
You've just met Death Day, by the way.
No, this is the big anticlimax. So, cuck queening. Can someone be a cuck queen without any element of the degradation /
Yes.
humiliation? Say, God damn it, I owe my kitten a fiver.
Yep. 100%. So cuck queen is also about compersion. So a cuck queen is the same as a cuckold. It's when somebody gets pleasure from their partner having sex or being sexually active with somebody else. A cuck queen normally identifies as female, a cuckold identifies as male. With a lot of cuckolding, there's a lot of bulls, probably got a bigger cock, can last longer, does this, that and the other, because the humiliation and degradation is often part of it for men, statistically, more. That's not always the case. It can purely be done through compersion. So I fucking love you having such a good time, and then you're with me and you share this, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's so good, and we get a lot of thrill and turn on from our partner being thrilled. So I have compersion. I happen to really love the degradation comparison, but it's more about talk. So I'm really sorry. The answer is 100% yes.
I had no idea that I was a cuck queen this whole time.
It's only the label.
Yeah, I thought it was just a normal poly thing.
But it is.
I thought everyone felt the same way,
But
and it
the thing
was just a poly thing.
You only the label that you give yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have to be.
Oh yeah, no, but like,
so
when someone was like, "Oh, so you're a bit
label.
of a cuck queen," I was like, "Nah."
No, cuck queen.
I feel like that.
A cuck queen can really enjoy it, and so can everyone who's poly.
Mind
So lots of people who are poly have compersion. Some people are poly do not. They really struggle with it. Don't tell me any details. You have like the kitchen table poly, or you have you have very different forms of polyamory going on. So kitchen tables and everybody talks, and everybody knows. You get some that are like triads where everybody's together, and some aren't. Like Jesus, poly is another whole conversation.
Wouldn't the male equivalent couldn't it be like stag?
Yes, well, stag goes with hot wife with too many labels. Too many labels. So stag goes with hot wife. So on a male, on average, if you've got a cuckold, it's a bull. If you've got a cuck queen, it's a cupcake. And it's a woman. So cupcake or cupcake, some people call them as well. So it really varies.
Wow.
But words change and just move, don't they, in different ways.
Debs, we love you.
At the end, I need to finish. Thank you very much for your time. And if you want to come to the Thursday workshops on Zoom, you decide the
Highly
content.
recommended.
Thank you.
Highly
Come from
recommended.
Scotland just to come down.
Just to see you live. 'Cause you're so
If you don't follow me on FetLife, you're on FetLife, come and follow me for Kinky.